In this Sands of Salzaar gameplay preview video, we're going to discuss the different classes, gameplay features, combat style, and siege system of the new sandbox RPG developed by Han-Squirrel Studio and published by XD. Sands of Salzaar has recently come out of early access via Steam this December and is now fully launched. This is a sponsored post. Please note sponsored posts are only sponsoring coverage. Our opinions on the game are our own and not affected by any business relationships with developers or publishers. What is Sands of Salzaar? Sands of Salzaar is an action-adventure sandbox RPG that's similar to Mount & Blade in terms of recruiting troops to build your army, siding with factions, and traversing multiple areas of the map to seek resources and pertinent items. You can also initiate sieges in towns to grow in power, or even create your very own faction. When it comes to combat, however, the game is more comparable to Diablo due to its action, fast-paced style where you go head-to-head against leaders and their armies as well as stray beasts and monsters. These encounters are messy at times, especially if you haven't upgraded your hero's skills nor equipped high-level gear. Sands of Salzaar allows you to engage in story mode where you'll be able to make choices to change the outcome of certain plot lines. Once you finish this, you'll gain access to the sandbox mode, which lets you freely explore the world without having to go through the stories anymore. Additionally, the game features 9 classes with a variety of skills, 3 difficulty levels for the campaign, recruitable heroes, troop upgrades, and factions you'll side with or antagonize. Sands of Salzaar even has a mod section for players to come up with their level designs and skill sets. The game is set in Salzaar, encompassing 6 areas, some of which have different environments. As an adventurer, your goal is to bring peace to the destruction caused by the rise of the Black Sun. This resulted in the arrival of fiery monsters known as Ifrit, who begin to attack humans. It'll also be up to you to defend or steal from vulnerable farmers and to fight against hostile nations and tribes since the old empire, which used to rule over Salzaar, has collapsed. The alliances you form will make it easier to recruit stronger troops. Furthermore, you have to understand the status of every faction, including the number of territories they govern, the heroes who represent them, and their relationship with remaining cities. These will help you decide the best groups to align yourself with, since you can't please everyone. In addition to the main and side quests, there are time-limited quests to gain favors from heroes you intend to recruit. For instance, they can ask you to deliver a letter to another village or to retrieve the debt they are owed by someone else. You'll also encounter character quests based on the class you select at the beginning of the game. Sands of Salzaar's visual design and snappy animations depict cel-shaded hand-drawn characters with heavy Asian influence. The colors they've used are specifically vibrant, which distinctly pop out of the background to show distinctive characters. The user interface has also been reworked from early access for simplification purposes, and is therefore coherent to the game rather than using placeholders. For example, the skill tree now clearly exhibits the path of each skill when you upgrade them. From the Spiritmancer's Call Shade skill to Shade Plus, you'll notice the health and damage enhancements right away. Although it would also be nice to change the colors of both stats, similar to other skills for better readability. In terms of audio, the music cycles between peaceful and heavy instrumental beats when you're traveling from one city to the next. This changes to exhilarating sound effects which are high in tension upon the start of every combat encounter as the game anticipates what's about to happen. However, even if the overall audio is good, it can become tedious to listen to after a while since the soundtrack is somewhat limited. At the beginning of Sands of Salzaar's story mode, you'll be asked to choose from 9 unique classes, namely the Spiritmancer, Spirit Witch, Jackal, Shaman, Knight Errant, Berserker, Sentinel, Sultan, and the Nameless. The Spiritmancer is the best beginner class since you automatically begin the game with a companion, so you won't need to complete a lot of quests to recruit a single hero. You'll also be able to conjure balls of energy to deal massive AoE damage and summon shadows to aid you in combat. The Spirit Witch has 3 wisdom crystals at their disposal to gain extra skill points right from the get-go. If you want to manipulate the battlefield by disorienting and controlling enemies to your advantage, then this class is for you. Unlike the previous 2 classes, the Jackal is not magically inclined. Instead, he's a roguelike character skilled in the shadows. Jackals can stealthily set up traps and knock down targets while earning Utar, or the game's currency. If you select this class, you'll start with 2 bounty hunter troops who possess similar qualities. The Shaman are akin to druids in that they have the ability to shapeshift into multiple beasts and even conjure certain draconic powers. As such, you have a close bond towards creatures of the forest, enabling you to properly communicate with them. You begin the game with wolves who are eager to assist you in your travels. Knight Errants are excellent sword masters who steal from the rich to avenge the poor, making you a wanted criminal. This means that you're vulnerable to frequently getting ambushed, so you have to be stealthy and navigate every village with caution. Moreover, you start with 3 wisdom crystals like the Spirit Witch. Berserkers are more versatile on the front lines compared to Knight Errants because of their melee weapon proficiency and heightened defenses. Even if you don't gain any advantage at the start, you perform well in brawls, often tipping the scales in your favor. Sentinels have a balanced understanding of inflicting physical and magic damage using their divine sword. With this class, you're able to boost your squad's resilience and reduce the damage you receive. Crossbowmen will accompany you right from the very beginning. Sultans harness their knowledge of ancient machinery to enhance their squad's gear. They're adept at building structures to recruit and train more troops, defending their stronghold, and establishing good relationships with neighboring cities. Despite being a sultan, you may still end up ruffling some feathers as you must prepare for arrival of invaders who are hoping to take what's rightfully yours. Unlike the rest of the 8 classes, the Nameless only becomes available after your first playthrough. This is the most challenging class to play since they're vilified by all communities for being an outcast. As such, you can easily be arrested. The advantage of becoming the Nameless is you're able to mix and match skills from different classes, making you a hybrid character. After selecting a class and customizing your character's appearance, you'll be able to pick bonus skills on top of the ones that already come with your class, special items like extra resources, heroes, and in-game modifiers. Each of these cost legacy points, which you'll reap by completing special achievements. For instance, you receive 1 legacy point every time your main character's level increases by 2, and you acquire more points when you clear dungeons. This is a good system that rewards you for your accomplishments while letting you alter modifiers such as being favored by the third nation in succeeding playthroughs. Upon leveling up, you gain 1 skill point to improve your skills. You have the class-specific, brawl-focused, and legacy trees which you've chosen in character creation. I highly recommend selecting AoE skills since most encounters involve group fights. These will allow you to destabilize and weaken chunks of enemies, thereby efficiently defeating them. In total, you'll be able to allocate 20 skill points since the max level in the game is 20. For companions, their skills are divided differently depending on who the hero is. So if you were to become a Spiritmancer, you'll be accompanied by Zeynep. She has the Skirmish and Traveler's Swordplay skill sets to reduce effectiveness of enemy attacks and to poison them as well. In my playthrough, I recruited Nabiha, who also has the Skirmish skill tree together with Fire Arcana to deal massive fire damage against multiple targets. Last but not least are talents consisting of perks to enhance the maximum number of squads you're able to recruit, improve charisma, and to reduce the injury rate of your army after combat. You'll be able to gain these points when you level up and obtain talent shards from Red Rocks and Salzaar. In Sands of Salzaar, you need to carefully manage 5 resources, particularly the Utar, Wood, Ironstone, Jade, and Food. By exploring each section of the map, you can acquire the majority of them laying on the ground except for Jade, which is quite rare. So you'll have to take as many quests as possible to continually accumulate resources at early levels. These include dungeon exploration and clearing, defeating bandits like the Desert Brotherhood, and successfully engaging in tavern brawls, tournaments, and heroic statue events. You will also need to purchase trade permits in order to perform business transactions with merchants in town if you don't have ownership. Resources are highly valuable because they let you repair equipment, recruit more troops, promote and upgrade your abilities, and prevent them from dying due to hunger. If you decide to own a faction, you'll need resources to construct buildings such as towers and medical stations. When it comes to recruiting heroes, you initially have to complete a series of time-limited quests for them to consider joining your squad. You can't outright enlist them since you're not yet highly regarded in Salzaar. When you complete quests, your reputation improves, thereby making recruitment easier and faster to do since heroes will most likely join you without needing to fulfill additional quests. Afterward, you should give gifts to them to further improve your relationship. This allows you to prevent them from initiating fights, for example. Meanwhile, finishing village quests enhances your reputation with nations and tribes. As a result, you can earn more noble titles and recruit stronger squad members. In Sands of Salzaar, combat follows the same style when it comes to overthrowing regimes and attacking hostile NPCs with your entire squad of heroes and troops. You'll be able to command them in groups so they can attack, defend your position, or follow you to recover momentarily. Winning rewards you with resources and better gear such as magic jewels to enhance the abilities of your troops. Furthermore, you can choose to manually or automatically engage in some of them to save time, especially if your army is big enough to be victorious. Combat is chaotic yet exciting since there's a lot of fast-paced action going on. Bandits attack from all directions, so your main character has to often switch positions to avoid death. If enemies have bigger and more powerful squads relative to yours, then you'll most likely lose. These are the 2 essential factors to consider since you won't win with just one or the other. The difficulty spikes in the game are somewhat arbitrary, so it's tough to gauge whether or not you'll fall at the hands of your enemies in the next encounter, even if you've easily beaten them a couple of times in the past. Like you, some of them are also growing in number. Additionally, combat can feel repetitive at times because the skills you have don't feel as important as they should. You'll resort to spamming them until their cooldown starts, only to spam them once again. There's no other mechanic like optimal positioning to gain advantage in order to sustain the excitement of every encounter, which is something I hope they'll consider adding in the future. Sands of Salzaar has 3 difficulty levels in story mode, namely Normal, Hard, and Epic. Normal is definitely recommended for beginners to fully understand the gameplay before trying other runs on higher difficulties. Meanwhile, Epic is suggested for those who wish to immensely challenge themselves versus smarter enemy AIs and tougher factions. If you've been rapidly growing your squad, you can declare sieges against towns to ultimately become the city ruler. Sieges are larger fights consisting of more than 50 squad members, making it much more chaotic than regular encounters. Your goal is to occupy every identified location while pushing and eliminating waves of opponents defending their forts. What makes it more challenging is the almost instant respawn rate of enemy heroes, which can quickly change the battle's outcome. As an official town leader, you'll be able to recruit more troops on the fly, construct buildings such as logging cabins to gain a steady supply of wood, and create and govern your faction as you please. Final thoughts. Sands of Salzaar has interesting gameplay mechanics in terms of recruiting heroes and troops, accumulating legacy points to modify next runs, and governing factions. It has a lot of nuances which you'll need to discover for yourself, since not everything is mentioned in the tutorials. However, I hope the skills will be emphasized further in combat, which would improve the overall experience of the encounters themselves. In terms of performance issues, I did encounter a few frame drops, but nothing major. If you've been looking for an action-adventure sandbox RPG which features a great selection of classes, visually pleasant 2D art style, and intricate diplomacy and favor systems, then consider purchasing Sands of Salzaar on Steam for $14.99 USD. You can use the link below to support the channel. If you played Sands of Salzaar in early access, what changes are you looking forward to in the full release? If you haven't, will you be playing the game? Let us know in the comments below.